don't know what mass deportation is going to mean, okay? We don't know when it's going to start. I don't know where it's going to start, because there are millions of people here. Obviously, it can't cover the whole country at once. I don't know where it's going to go. Hopefully, it will give us time for Trump to listen to us. And we need to talk about immigration with essential workers like agricultural. Thank you. We can't lose. This locality lacks sufficient food supply to support deportation here. We really don't think anyone wants that. Because without our people, our farms will be paralyzed. We won't be able to harvest our fruits, vegetables, and nuts. It will disrupt the food chain in the United States. There is a possibility of a significant increase in food prices.
Well, first of all, I don't think it would happen overnight because you don't want to cripple all kinds of food. We give a food. Lettuce, like vegetables, offers nourishment and sustenance. If you wanted to say, okay, everybody's going to be deported, that I don't think that's going to happen. And I have to emphasize that a mechanization is coming. There are automatic milking machines, basically in the barn, but there are new ones. Milkers that are automatic, that actually attach to the machine and don't need employees.
Well, there are two types of pro-Trump farmers in America right now. One who are regretting, and there are more and more of them, by the way, that they voted for Donald Trump, who are asking, begging Trump to listen to them, to stop this insanity that is going to ruin not only their farms, but the entire food supply chain in the United States, like yourselves. The food supply chain in the United States, as you saw. And another one that, because they are still blinded by racism, and they are hoping that Trump will save them with machines to replace the immigrants. Immigrants, and by the way, that Trump will pay for those machines, which in the end are not from their money, but from the money of the Americans. But now they are already dealing with a third problem. Beyond this division of the racist farmer and the farmer who has already seen, it is a matter of concern what will happen to the California farmers if they continue on their current path. Desperation has engulfed them, and they have reached out to Donald Trump, pleading for an end to the madness. They not only face the threat of losing immigrant workers through deportations, but are also burdened by the newly imposed tariffs, which have taken effect today. These farmers are in a dire situation as their crops are left to rot in the fields of the United States. Despite their best efforts, only a small portion of the harvest can be salvaged due to the absence of immigrant labor to tend to the crops. They go unsold. Why? Nobody wants to buy American goods because they are not in demand. Because of their tariff war, which has only provoked. There is wastage of tomatoes worldwide, including Canadian supermarkets and other places in Europe and Mexico. When you come across a tomato that has the inscription of, well, they are spoiling, then you know it is wasteful. That it comes from the United States and another one from Mexico, from Canada, which one do you buy? Unless you look at me from the United States and, well, I would say buy local. Buy local, well, yes, help your local economy. However, beyond the borders of the United States, the perspective we hold is valid from any part of the world except the United States. Why is that? Because nobody wants to buy products. While Donald Trump is attacking the whole world, they are desperate, and today they are admitting that they regretted voting for Donald Trump. Look at this article, by the way, so they don't. There I am going to show you two sources of the many that there are. I currently reside in the United States, where deportations are non-existent. In his perception, the absence of witnessing one occurring near his property leads him to believe it never happens. Well, there is this article that just came out a few hours ago in the Fresno Bee. In addition, it has been reported by both local and national U.S. media, including the New York Times, that California farmers are expressing significant concerns about the newly imposed tariffs by Donald Trump. These media outlets have provided comprehensive explanations of the situation, highlighting the anxiety gripping the agricultural community. Meanwhile, the White House continues to assert that the tariffs are justified, attempting to convince the public, despite the growing opposition, that these tariffs are to bring equality or to bring equality to the United States. Of course, agricultural organizations such as the California Farm Bureau, which is quoting this very article, not the New York Times article, Times. The one that I am going to show you in a moment from Fresno B. Well, there you can read about how the California Farm Bureau itself and the Western growers are currently sending a letter to the United States Congress, to the Congress of the United States, saying, hey, stop this madman. This decision will have a profound impact on the economy of our country, potentially costing billions of dollars and causing extensive damage to our agricultural industry. To give you some perspective, this is expected to occur in the year 2022. The farms in question exported a total sum of $23.6 billion. What is going to happen now? Oh, well, a repeat, by the way, of the last blow they suffered when Donald Trump was here the last time in 2018. He started fighting with China. What happened next? He caused an immense blow to farmers, resulting in a staggering $27 billion lost in exports due to the ongoing dispute with China. Well, as they say, the current battle extends beyond China. It's now against the entire world. This means a wider range of opponents is involved. That this time, they are not going to lose $27 billion in exports. This time, they are going to go bankrupt. Those were data from the Department of Agriculture, by the way, from 2018. Scale in this situation. And on top of that, because Trump today is imposing tariffs on all countries, which is the entire planet, well, on Mexico and Canada, on Canada to China to all of them. So, farmers today are seeing a storm coming from these moments in the field or in the countryside. In the United States, things are very complicated. Very, very complicated. How do I know that? Well, you have to read a little bit. You don't even have to scratch much. What's more, look at the videos that are circulating on Twitter, now X, here on YouTube, on TikTok, where you see the cherry fields of oranges, of walnuts, statements from farmers like the ones I gave you a moment ago, translated into Spanish, that are compiled by our AFP correspondents who are currently experiencing extreme frustration in the United States as they frantically struggle with various challenges, not only in California, but also in Florida and in the rest of the United States. They are desperate. Why? Because they know that as of today, the only thing that is coming for them is a brutal fall. There is an interview here of a farmer that caught my attention. Matthew Everett, a farmer hailing from Fresno, is what he is famously known as. With 5 generations. He is the 5th generation to have farms in the United States doing very well. He is currently informing Ashby about it. He managed to endure the previous round of tariffs implemented by Trump in 2018 due to his strategy of diversifying. If you observe his current possessions, it is evident that he acquired significant wealth. To verify this statement, direct your attention to the Fresno B note. He says he has 1,300 acres. And yet, you would think a farmer in the United States with 1,300 acres? Well, he is rich, he is a millionaire. Well, he came dangerously close to bankruptcy, but somehow managed to pull through. With the government checks that Donald Trump himself gave him to bail him out, so that he could survive after the disaster in which, after the mess that Trump himself got them into, Trump came to the rescue of the very problem he created. Classic Trump being Trump. Well, the thing is, those checks were barely enough to keep him from going bankrupt. He himself says he helped us but didn't quite get us back. Now, without immigrants, add this. There is no one to cultivate his fields with all the markets for the United States closing in the world due to Trump's decisions. Well, today you are going to see how your crops are now rotting, lost, and now your 1,300 acres are going to ruin. At present, U.S. farmers are experiencing these circumstances, their circumstances. That is the reason why you come across these statements, present in video recordings and newspaper articles from members of Congress who address their questions to Trump. In order to put an end to this insanity, it is imperative to eliminate the tariffs and reinstate the immigrant workers who have been deported. Alternatively, the option of not interfering with the few remaining workers on his farms should be considered. Why? Well, because without them, there is no way to maintain production. Even the second one, in the second interview, I thought it was important to put to you. Both voted for Trump, apparently, but the second one is still holding on a lot. Racism blinds him, and he says, well, let them take them away. There are machines, and who's going to pay for those machines? Is Trump, with the tax dollars of all Americans, going to pay for the machines on your farm? Okay, and once he pays for it, those machines are going to be able to do all the harvesting and production jobs that impossible immigrants do. I'm not saying that in the future it's not possible, but right now it's not, because if it were, they would no longer be occupying them. And it is not only the issue of milking, for example, that this person was talking about. There are nuts, there is wine, that is to say, there is a whole chain of production. There is the issue of the wine producers from California, who are also involved in a big problem today. Remember that California produces a lot of wine. Well, it turns out that now, since Trump is also imposing these tariffs on Canada, and Canada is banning the sale of U.S. liquor, prohibits the vending of American alcoholic beverages. Well, all the Californian wines were removed from the supermarkets, from the LCBOs. They cannot be served in restaurants in the United States. They are banned from consumption. And fair enough, even if it wasn't banned, nobody wants to buy them. What happened? Approximately 40% of the entirety of wine exports originating from the United States experienced a decline in sales. That market is already leaving. This started without even the signing of a decree. It is the Canadian who today is saying, I don't buy anything that comes from the United States. I don't want to have anything that comes from the United States. I'm not going to visit the United States or spend a single dollar on their products. That is why they are currently in such a state of desperation. Here we have the plea of pro-Trump American farmers, imploring for the return of immigrants. We earnestly beseech you to listen. Cease these deportations, not in this place, for it will only lead us into trouble. The small portion of produce that does not decay in the fields cannot be sold. I mean, you are hanging them. By all means. The issue of immigrants, which, by the way, I was just before starting this live broadcast, this transmission, reading an article in which the White House finally recognizes that among the deportees that they sent to this maximum security prison in El Salvador are not all those who say they are gang members or members of the Tren del Aragua. There is the case of a Colombian who was neither Venezuelan nor part of the Aragua train. But since he had tattoos, they said, he's from the ball. Fortunately for him, it went viral and well. The White House had to come out and recognize him because it had no choice. But that is the situation in which thousands of immigrants are, and Donald Trump does not want to realize it. He does not want to listen to his own farmers who are telling him that without these immigrants, or as Trump calls them, aliens, illegal aliens, that is what he calls them. Illegal aliens, as he calls them. Well, there is no one working in the fields in California. Thanks to them, he eats his McDonald's hamburgers with lettuce and tomato, which he loves so much. However, Trump persists in his foolishness of imposing tariffs and conducting deportations, all the while neglecting the fact that there is a shortage of labor for cultivating crops, the farmers who greatly suffer as a consequence. A large number of individuals, by the way, support Trump and continue to cling to their big bogeyman. They are asking him to please have a little mercy because they are saying, we gave you our vote, but we can't take this anymore because you are choking us. We need these people back, because if not, our fruits and our nuts are going to be lost. They are racist until they realize that thanks to them they eat and live well. It is a tremendous contradiction, isn't it? The guy who promised to defend them has them in crisis. The same guy who voted for Trump, a racist, now supports welcoming back immigrants. They wholeheartedly plead for him to rectify the situation, praying for God's will to be done regarding the deportation of everyone except those from my farm. Look at him, how generous and kind he appears to be. Isn't it remarkable? How good, that is to say, who should be deported? Those who are in the streets are the least. Those who are on the streets like zombies because of drugs are not immigrants. The immigrants are those who are in the camps because they know that they do not have an assistance check and they did not go for that. They went to make money, to work hard. Look, in 2018, the imposition of tariffs by China resulted in a devastating loss of roughly $239 million for walnut producers. This substantial amount refers specifically to the problem encountered with exported nuts sent to China. Now imagine what they are going to lose. This is already a war that has escalated in the crops, not only in California, but in the United States as well, because of this battle that has been waged. All across the globe, today, April 2nd, Donald Trump commences an event he ungraciously refers to as Liberation Day. Liberation Day. This text has been expanded to approximately 197 characters. which is the day when we are rather going to get rid of them, not them of us. Already even the pundits are talking about this. The worst scenario is that California is going to lose $6 billion in exports with these tariffs, just as the first effects of these tariffs. As the first effects of what Trump is causing today. The USDA, for example, spent $30 billion in 2 years. Now with Trump, well, it's going to have to spend a fortune to prevent and keep the farmers who used to be self-sufficient. What was the need for this? Those farmers employed our immigrant brothers and sisters. Those immigrants worked very hard to put food on the table for Americans. Ensure that American families have adequate meals on their table. I don't see Elon Musk, for example, approving a bailout. Support American farms and agriculture. I see Donald Trump worried about Tesla cars being sold, but ignoring the farmers who are saying to him, hey, please, you're going to drive us into the ground. At the end of the day, without support, well, those American farmers are going to be on their own. They're going to go to ruin. But the Trump administration says, and that's why I put this article from the New York Times, a little naive, but good. You have to put it up. It says there is no problem, says the New York Times. Don't worry, help is on the way. There is already an emergency plan. For what? To help the farmers and the countries respond with more tariffs. Of course, they're going to respond with more tariffs. How are we going to respond? With flowers? Well, no. The White House says that it's going to come out and rescue American farms. Rescue them from what? From the bankruptcy he himself put them into? That's not a bailout. That's making a big deal out of it. Look, it's literally like shooting somebody and saying, don't worry, I'm going to pay for your knee surgery from the bullet I put in you. That's no help. If you hadn't put that bullet in me in the first place, we were fine. I used to be able to do it on my own. So this is definitely not a rescue. What we're looking at is a total mess of a story here from the New York Times, being the New York Times. The New York Times being the New York Times, you know it is a super propagandist media. But well, the enormous amount of money, by the way, that they are going to need with this. And now, by the way, they already want to sell Elon Musk as the supposed FOBA Pro to US farms. They say there's a savings plan because of the cuts in the tremendous corruption in the United States that Musk is uncovering, that all the money they are saving is going to be used to rescue the US farms. The utilization of this plan is intended for the salvation of American farms, which are being pushed into bankruptcy by Trump himself. In short, by the way, this also affects Mexico. And Mexico is also going to affect the United States because there is already talk, by the way, in this article in the New York Times, that Mexico is very likely to impose tariffs on certain products in addition to those already mentioned. The issue of avocados. I was telling you the other day that almost 9 out of every 10 avocados, 8 if you do not want to round it up, come from Mexico. The United States consumes most 0.9, 1.1 times of the total. So, Americans will be forced to bid farewell to their beloved avocados, and not just that, but also to tomatoes, beer, steel, aluminum, cars, and household appliances. The consequences of this situation are undeniably severe. Everything is going to go up because the companies pass that cost on to the end consumer, which is the American consumer for whom these tariffs are intended. By the way, some argue that this could become the biggest tax hike ever recorded in the USA, masqueraded as tariffs. How can people still believe that this would be the largest tax increase in US history just under the name tariffs? Believe in this. Who are still saying they are tariffs when they are taxes? When they are taxes, there is almost no tax on breathing, no tax on avocado, no tax on steel, no tax on aluminum, no tax on cars, no tax on milk, no tax on bread, no tax on tortillas. He is putting a massive tax on everything, a 200% tax on some products. It is incredible how Donald Trump is selling this lie. By the way, that's why Donald Trump is so interested. I find it perplexing how the US Secretary of Education harbors such interest in concealing the fact that what he calls tariffs are essentially taxes imposed on American citizens. This level of ignorance allows him to continue promoting this audacious notion. The United States is the most illiterate developed country in the world. The most illiterate developed country in the world is the United States. I was showing you graphs the other day. Someone is going to say, how can it be possible that in a country where Harvard is, where Yale is the most illiterate country in the world, education is regarded as a privilege for the wealthy, not as a fundamental human entitlement, just like health. How is it possible that a country that has such good hospitals and clinics. For example, the Mayo Clinic has so many health problems, and someone who gets sick can go to ruin because health is not a right. It is a privilege of the rich. In the United States, there is very little public education remaining, and Trump's suggestion is to eliminate the Secretary of Education. This proposal is likely to contribute to a rise in the percentage of Americans who hold misguided beliefs. For instance, according to a recent poll, a significant number of Americans mistakenly believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. Similarly, there seems to be widespread belief that Donald Trump's tariffs will lead to the revival of America's greatness, despite the fact that they actually represent an unprecedented tax increase in the nation's history. Well, there's a reason for everything, and that is what we are seeing. Today is the beginning of this new stage. Trump once again claims that these tariffs will generate revenue for tax cuts, even though, in reality, they are actually a form of tax increase. He calls it Liberation Day, like it's something very heroic, like another 4th of July. Anyway, the level of, I don't know what strikes me more here, whether it's the level of cynicism or the people who continue to believe somehow, friends, in this absurdity that we are seeing today. But for the time being, the farmers have already realized that this is going to sink them, and they are asking to do something. Sergio Bonilla says, what you have just said, I confirm. People here do not study and know only what they do not study and know only what they study, or they study and know only what they study and nothing else, and the rest are totally ignorant. Study and health are almost privileges in the United States. They are. If you can afford it, you can access to very good quality healthcare. If not, you can't go to college. I proudly went to Veracruzana. I proudly went to the Universidad Veracruzana. Many people are amazed at what I tell them here in Canada when I tell them how much my degree cost. How much my degree cost me? I think it cost me 500 pesos per semester or 1,000 pesos, I don't know. That's what it cost me. Enrollment is a symbolic issue. They were that public education of excellent quality. That does not happen in the United States. You can't go 500 or 1,000 Mexican pesos. What would it be if we were to put it at today's inflation, to put something for $50? Of course, you can't go for $50 or $100 to college for a semester. With that, you don't pay, but without even the Uber in the country across the sea. Therefore, there is no public education. It's a privilege of the rich. And by the way, that's why Elon Musk and all these elite are so interested in keeping it that way. What do they want and awaken people for? A people who are going to start saying, hey, that's not true what you told me about the tariffs. They are taxes. Who is going to pay for that? Is it me? Mexico is not going to pay for that. That is not a punishment. You started saying that the tariffs were because of the Fenta issue. After that, what does Turkey have to do with this, and India and Europe, Spain, Denmark? Europe, Spain, Denmark, Greenland, then? You said the tariff issue was because the world was abusing us. Then you looked for excuse after excuse to keep widening the spectrum. And now it's to planet Earth. In reality, what it does is make the American pay more for everything, from an increase of 25% to an increase of 200%. How would it have gone down with the American if I said I'm going to raise your food tax? Can the percentage increase be up to 200%? Well, they don't vote for him. But if you tell him I'm going to make America great again on Lib Day with a tariff to punish the world, yeah, hit him hard, Donald Trump. And there they are paying. Anyway, Victor Mandujano states that his father had to support a family of 7 children while studying until high school. Despite his circumstances, he remained dedicated to learning and continued to educate himself throughout his life. Exactly. The thing is that now there are also these social networks that serve for good and bad things. He didn't dictate that it is the same thing to find out about things that happen in the world as to watch videos of puppies dancing and spend time there instead of reading a book, rather than engaging in activities such as reading a book or studying. They have a plan for everything. Nuez Rodriguez proposes to utilize the U.S. soldiers for tasks other than war, as they solely focus on it. A better alternative would be allocating the Americans, who are derogatorily referred to as gringos, for different work. Not long ago, I came across a video where U.S. soldiers amusingly made the cherry only a pinch of it. And well, I don't know if they did it like seeing how fast they could stomp the cherry. I bet you they put one of those elite troops to stomp on the cherry of the United States and an immigrant worker, and the immigrant worker takes the soldier by storm. While the soldier gets sunstroke, the other one has already carried about 4 baskets. Manuel Camargo Ponce says the bad thing is the enormous number of North American people that invade us. Now they fill Yucatan and Quintana Roo with despot people, and they think they have more rights than us Mexicans. Yesterday I was watching a video of a lady, precisely an American lady, who is on a beach and there is a band singing. You know, they come up to play songs and you give them something, and the lady pushes them and tells them in English to shut up, that she is fed up, not to do that. And the band fortunately sings even more and follows her. And the lady throws a tantrum. By the way, a large number of them are illegal immigrants in Mexico, specifically unauthorized American immigrants residing in Mexico, who abuse the Mexican immigration system by saying they are going to enjoy a vacation when in reality they are coming to work remotely. To avoid paying taxes in Mexico, they should remember the benefits they enjoy, such as the beautiful beaches, well-maintained streets, efficient garbage collection, bright street lighting, and beautiful parks. How do they contribute to that? With nothing. We say nothing to them while withholding everything. However, we are labeled as alien criminals when it concerns us. But when it comes to that, watch out, make way for the Lord. I think it's a double hypocrisy, don't you? Harmony says, hello, in Spain, healthcare is not free. It is paid for by the state. Of course. That is paid for with taxes. There is nothing free in life. Yes, of course. Thanks for the clarification, Harmony. Just as in Mexico, the cost of public education is covered through our taxes, implying that it is not free. But what we expect? The taxes we contribute are recuperated in the form of services provided to us. What type of service is received by the average American who now pays excessively high fees that can be considered as taxes of an astronomical level of up to 200%? And they don't even give him a free Band-Aid? There is no public health center to take care of him. There is no public university to give you an education, despite the thousands of dollars they pay. A year or a month. It is absurd, isn't it? Jose Ramos says Spain came olives, oil, and ham all for China, and Latin America nothing at all. Yes, that's the thing. Javier says only the politicians and the narco government are currently affecting this recession. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you know what seems to me that it is a narco government that finances these factions? Where on earth do these criminal organizations manage to acquire their weapons from? In what denomination do these criminal groups cash in? There's the answer. It has always been in their interest to subjugate us. How was it? How did the CIA manage to impose a government in Syria and to put Bashar al-Assad in place? By arming and financing criminal groups like HTS, for which until just a few months ago they were offering $10 million for his head, and now they applaud him, and are now applauding him. That is the plan of silent invasion of countries. This channel is very good, isn't it? Like mine, congratulations, Harmony. I didn't know you have a channel. I will check it out, of course. My dear Harmony, finishing this live. Carlos Rivera, greetings all the way to beautiful Campeche. Rob Tocayo says, Rob Victor, until next time. I think they are not to blame. They are to blame. It is Mexico, says Eduardo. Alberto Stone says, hola, greetings, paisanos, and you speak well. Jarocho, viva Veracruz, of course. Yes, Jarocho to the soul. That no doubt from wherever I am, I will always be Jarocho, 100%. Thank you very much, friends, for joining me. Jarocho means, by the way, to be from Veracruz, the state where I was proudly born. Veracruz, little corner of the homeland that knows how to laugh and sing. Greetings to my Jarocho brothers and see you in the next one.